Okay, folks, we have come back. Looks like I'm going to get to go to the next case for free. Case 37 of Mysteries of the Past. Death comes to lunch. Matthew, the chief asked me to fill in for Madeline today. She celebrated the end of Prohibition with rather too much absinthe last night. I worry about our Madeline sometimes. Moderation doesn't seem to be a virtue she's blessed with. Oh, Mr. Bontemps, don't be so hard on Maddie. We young people need joy in our lives, and we have cause for celebration. The gang war between the Italians and the Irish is finally over. Peace has come at a heavy price, Evelyn. Many lives were lost on both sides, and even among the police. What's more, Matthew's uncovered the troubling truth that the Capecchis have forged an alliance with someone in the Rochester family. The Rochesters have considerable influence in Concordia. To think that they would fraternize with criminals is disquieting. Matthew, we are in a great predicament. What happened, Chief? More paperwork? No, I mean, yes, but that's the least of it. Miss Clara Rochester was found dead in her own home after a family luncheon. Miss Clarissa Rochester, isn't she the... Yes, the director of the Bank of Concordia, the highest standing financier of our town. Matthew, you must call at Miss Rochester's residence immediately and establish the circumstances of her death. I can only hope there is no foul play involved. Go. Okay. Sorry, I had to get a sip of Gatorade. Of course, ignore my local news in the background. Please do not comment about it. Oh boy, I racked up a lot.
In the near future, expect a lot of talk about rats, slugs, on TV and radio ads. State's launching $1 million campaign to help prevent the spreading and devastating effects of rat lungworm disease. Island News, Captain Cruz.
Public service announcement will be broadcast as part of a 2-year coordinated campaign. It's to make sure everyone is aware of how rats and slugs can cause rat lungworm disease and why you don't want to come down with it.
The cases in the past have been mostly located on Big Island. We now have a cluster of
There we are.
cases on Maui, and we know that there's risk on the other islands as well. So we need to have a statewide effort to make sure everyone is educated, and we do everything we can to prevent this disease from occurring anywhere
Another
else.
400.
A special task force drawing from across the community is looking at everything from the science to diagnosis to prevention.
The chief hoped there was no foul play involved in Clarissa Rochester's death, but look at the foam around her mouth and the green hue of her face. I concur, Matthew. Miss Rochester bears the mark of poisoning. Now, are you the police? Thank heavens you've arrived. I was beside myself. I didn't even hear the doorbell. And you are... I'm Francine, the maid. It was me who telephoned the police. You did well to alert the police, Francine. Senior Trooper Matthew will talk to you in a moment. And now I see you found a clue, Matthew. That book was written by our victim, Clarissa Rochester. Make a killing in shillings. A fitting over for a bank director. Let's see what's inside. There's a dedication, the very first copy of your book, and a proud moment for me. Someone close to the victim wrote this, no doubt. Let us identify the signature. Matt, we've only just decided to delve into the Rochester's affairs, and one of them's now murdered. I wonder what dark truths may come to light. Let us begin.
For now, it's the emphasis on the first defenses, washing produce well, and cooking food properly, because people's lives and our economy depends on it.
Alright, we'll start the autopsy, and I'm going to grab a lot of stars, so sit tight, everyone.
We want to make sure that they protect them.
Okay, let's examine the signature first before we tell Francine. Pretty sure that isn't going to open the... Pretty sure that talking to Francine will open the next crime scene. There we are. Oh, and I still got the 9. Horatio Rochester. Matthew, the person congratulating the victim on her book was Horatio Rochester. Yes, I recall we've already made Horatio Rochester's acquaintance, an imposing fellow who found himself implicated in Commissioner Baldwin's murder. It is evident that Mr. Rochester was close to the victim. We shall have a word with him. Look sharp, Matthew.
It's called Valpolicella, made from special grapes grown in Barolo, northern Italy. I bring them over myself 18 years ago. This wine I drink only.
I think this is 37.
Know that I'm very flattered.
Is it?
So,
Yes, it is.
Mark, we took you riding, didn't we? We showed you the vineyards. So what do you think? I think they're magnificent. Yeah, one day.
Senior Trooper Matthew, I've just been informed of my daughter's murder. You'd better be doing your darndest to find Clarissa's killer. Clarissa was your daughter? Blood and thunder. I mean, my deepest condolences, Mr. Rochester. Rest assured the murderer shall not escape punishment. I ruddy hope not. A murder in the Rochester family is simply unacceptable. Mr. Rochester, I loathe to ask, but did your daughter have any personal enemies? Anyone in the family who resented her? Enemies in the family? Preposterous. My daughter didn't concern herself with sentimental piffle. Her calling was her work. I need not remind you that she was the director of the Bank of Concordia. She worked tirelessly to expand the Rochester's wealth and standing. I was immeasurably proud of her. Now, I suggest you prove yourselves worthy of your own jobs and find her killer before long.
Men in fancy suits, women with screwdrivers and shaving cream. The funny thing, how much practice is left. This would surely mark.
Talk to the housemaid now.
My brother. He's got a wife who'd rather live the fancy life in San Francisco.
Francine, you were the one who found your mistress dead in the salon. Can you describe exactly what happened? Well, there was a luncheon, as you know, but Milady started feeling unwell, so she asked the guests to take an early leave. And when I came back to the salon, I found her dead on the sofa with that awful foam around her mouth. I was so terribly frightened. I can't believe anyone would do this to Milady, after she kindly invited them to the house, too. Francine, we shall require a list of everyone who attended this luncheon. Oh, that's quite impossible. So many people were here, eating, drinking, making merry. Some even went up to the rooftop to enjoy a game of bowling. The rooftop, you say? Then we shall examine it without delay. Please stay around in case we need you, Francine.
What's that supposed to mean? I'm just saying last year you guys went to have games.
You can see I've got 3 stars already.
No, I'm not
I
saying
think I pretty much know where everything is.
Don't eat, knock it off.
Time to get us a couple bucks on the side. That's right, if I have. All who cares? Where's your money anyway? Stop it.
Let's see if I can do this.
What behavior is this? We're supposed to be celebrating. To a man who has taught me the meaning of honor and respect, the dignity of hard work, the joy of life. When I die, I hope the only thing they say about me is that he was the son of Salvatore and that he was a friend of his father.
Pot of debris. 3 seconds.
I'm grateful to God for giving me a strong and loving son.
Okay.
Caring.
Matthew, the maid said the party guests played bowling here. I take a dim view of the games that hurt the backbone, but leave the intellect unchallenged. But I see the illustrious revelers knock down that potted plant in their bowling frenzy. You reckon the debris might conceal a clue? And that note appears to be addressed to our victim. It says, Clarissa, change your mind or you'll regret it, with a skull in the corner. Tarnation? I'd wager you found a death threat from the killer. Let us collect those yellow flakes from the paper to know more.
Gambino sempre. The family united forever. So,
Salute.
Okay. There we go. 7. Matthew, these gold flakes were left on the killer's death threat to Clarissa. Let us dispatch them to Viola. And this will be 3 hours. A lot of debris now.
I gotta get to Tahoe. Tonight's business. I gotta see this guy.
Gold pieces.
6. I tried to tell you.
Matthew, what were these gold pieces doing among the debris of the flower pot?
No, I wouldn't do this if I didn't.
You're right. We should reassemble the pieces to see what they are.
I'm very tired.
It's gotta be a coin.
I'm sleeping late. You do me a favor. Go down to my wine cellar and get 3 bottles of 68 Bourbon. 68, huh? It's near the top of the rack at the bottom of the stairs. Red label. Okay. Now, I want to get something special for Jessica, huh? Here's the key. You'll decant the bottles before you burn.
Here we are.
Everything's gonna be okay. You get in any trouble.
Matthew, the golden trinket you restored looks like a 1 shilling coin, but it flaunts the likeness of a young man and an inscription, with compliments from Larry Rochester. Larry Rochester? We haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet, but if he mints coins with his own face, I don't expect him to be humble and unassuming. You're right, Matthew. Larry must have attended the luncheon. Let's see what he can tell us. We will. Mr. Larry Rochester? We're investigating the death of Clarissa Rochester, your relative. She was poisoned at a luncheon you attended. Clarissa poisoned? Oh no, my dear cousin. Clarissa's life was short and tragic, and just when she finally decided to throw a party, poof, she's dead. Clarissa's life was tragic? How so? Well, she worked in the bank, despite being rich already. A Rochester throwing her life away like that. I encouraged her to seize the day, but she was married to her work. Exchange rates, deposits, and now she's dead before she could have enjoyed her own riches.
Your surfer is a simple problem.
I expect you're immune to such mistakes, Mr. Rochester. These gold coins you stamped with your face must have cost a fortune. Oh, these are my calling cards. I figured gold was prettier than paper. Anyway, further engagements await, so I must hurry along. Good luck solving my cousin's murder, Senior Trooper Matthew. Toodaloo. Boy, that is old. Toodaloo. I'll let these two run their courses. For now, this is Matthew. See you then. Okay, folks, we have come back, and let's get the results of the autopsy. Matthew, there's no doubt about it. Your victim was killed by Weeping Nellie. Is that so, Richard? Then pray tell, who or what is this Nellie, and where does one find her? Weeping Nellie, or Cornelia lacrimosa, is a plant common to Concordia's forests, my friends. And its extract, a cardiac depressant, is sometimes called Nellie's tears in the poison maker's parlance. I take it this poisonous plant is what killed Miss Rochester? Exactly. The toxin was mixed in with her champagne, the only substance in the victim's stomach. Must have given her terrible cramps, too. Now, Viola confirmed that extracting the poison from the plant is a delicate process. It involves grinding the stem and then soaking it in a special solution. In short, Matthew, you're looking for a killer who knows quite a bit about the qualities and use of plants. Well, let's see if our botanist killer can concoct a remedy against getting arrested.
so I switched to Blue Buffalo.
All Blue Life Protection foods are made with the finest natural ingredients, featuring real meat and no chicken byproduct.
I love her like family, so I feed her like family with Blue.
And for a tasty reward she'll love, try Blue Kitty Cravings Crunchy Cat Treats, made with yummy chicken, salmon,
And the gold flakes now.
Kitty Cravings have a crunch she'll find irresistible.
Matthew, I can tell you have an upper-class murder on your hands when you send me lab samples of gold. Well, these gold flakes are found on a threatening note from the killer. Do tell what you gleaned from them, Viola. The substance is caviar, a delicacy which was undoubtedly served at the victim's luncheon. And this caviar was laced with flakes of real gold. Caviar laced with real gold? Well, blow me down. What will the rich think of next? As the bard said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Isaac, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. I suppose this means our killer enjoyed this fanciful delicacy shortly before they penned the threat to the victim. Well, if our killer's partial to gold and caviar, then prison slop shall be a harsh surprise for them, Matthew.
I just spoke to Dr. George and he says there's nothing.
Matthew, we've already crossed paths with the Rochester family during our earlier criminal investigations. And we've recently uncovered a suspicious link between the Rochesters and the deceased Italian gangster Vittorio Capesci. But now we're inquiring into a Rochester's murder. Bank director Clarissa Rochester was poisoned in her home during a party. Dick said the deadly extract of a plant was mixed in with the victim's champagne, killing Miss Rochester just after her guests had departed. We've questioned Clarissa's father, Horatio Rochester, who had nothing but praise for his industrious daughter. While our cousin Larry is cut from a different cloth, an extravagant spendthrift with a penchant for hedonism. Now, Matthew, the Bank of Concordia telephoned to report an intrusion. Clarissa Rochester's vault has been ransacked.
Stanley, how would you fake a relapse? I mean, do I deserve this? Stan, I took care of you.
Alright, I'll see you guys for Chapter 2. We are back now, and we're going to start Chapter 2 of Death Comes to Lunch. Blood and thunder! How is it possible to ransack a secure deposit room in the bank? The bank manager said there were no signs of forced entry. The intruder knew their way in. Tarnation! If someone was sniffing around in the victim's vault mere hours after her death, it may well be linked to the murder. Quick, Matthew! We must hurry to the bank and investigate the vault.
Life doesn't always turn out exactly the way I found that out when you poisoned. I was scared. Alone. I said, and now you will too. Did you?
Does this mean you throw me out?
You understand me? I'm pushing you out of the nest. You can't run over here every time you have a battle. I'm not your mother. I'm not even your wife, and understand me? It's time that you grew. I'm happy with your even better.
I know where everything is, but I just put the magnifier on just to be on the safe side. Okay, roses and dawn. And I'll see you guys. Wait just a sec, not yet.
Love at the Shore premieres Saturday at 9 on Hallmark Channel. The Heart of Happy.
Matthew, Clarissa Rochester's private vault is completely ransacked. The intruder was clearly searching for something. We'd better see if they left behind any clues. That magnifying glass looks fancy, but not made for the small hands of a lady. We must unscramble the engraving on the handle to see who it belongs to. And this photograph depicts a scene of debauchery. Scantily dressed ladies are rolling in money with Larry Rochester. By Jove, such display of decadence. You're right, something's written on the picture. Well, we do well to reveal it. And if you want to open that box bearing the victim's initials, I shan't stand in your way. All right. This is family money. I shall alert the trustees. Matthew, the writing on Larry Rochester's photograph reads, "This is family money. I shall alert the trustees, CR." Starting from the obvious, CR ought to be Clarissa Rochester's initials. Clarissa was manifestly displeased with her cousin Larry squandering the family fortune on frivolous escapades. And if Larry knew Clarissa was planning to warn the trustees, it could have given him a motive for murder. We must question him again. And let's see what Larry Rochester has to say about it. Sorry guys, those Golden Girls and just heard a few funny lines. Mr. Rochester, we know your cousin disapproves of your life of debauchery and threatened to cut your spendings. We found this photograph in her vault. Oh, Senior Trooper Matthew, everyone deserves to relax a little after a hard day of signing checks and arguing with the butler. But of course, my cousin didn't see it that way. I don't know how Clarissa even got hold of that photograph, but Lord knows it was typical of her to object to fun. She once suggested I make use of my expensive private education and get a job. Please, I only studied botany in Paris to flirt with French girls. Another time, she told me to cut back on golden caviar. Crazy idea. Why be thrifty when I was born a millionaire? So when Clarissa decided to warn the trustees and curtail your spending, you knew you couldn't reason with her. You thought up a more radical solution to stop her, didn't you? And then ransacked the vault trying to retrieve the photograph before Senior Trooper Matthew found it. You're not suggesting I'd hurt Clarissa. She was my cousin. I loved her despite her foibles. Besides, I'm averse to the degree of exertion involved in plotting murders and ransacking vaults. I am a gentleman of leisure, Senior Trooper Matthew.
Please go on. That's such a beautiful language. That's why we just show Mr. Vaughn around the theater. Well, why don't I just do that myself, since I've had the most experience with both here. Gosh, the parking lot doesn't count.
Oh, I'm doing this one next, but that's okay.
Oh, I think I read about that. Aren't you playing a tangerine in a comedy commercial? Yes. How excited. Have you ever been a
78878. 82727.
Don't forget, casting is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I trust the
Oh. Hold on. Alright. That's 7 of them. Matthew, there was a stack of letters in that box the victim kept locked. I agree. Clarissa's private correspondence may bring forth a new lead in her murder. Let's task Evie with a thorough study of these letters.
Supporting range of motion ensures improved joint comfort in 7 days, which means you're in big trouble, son. You won't bow to my
12 hours?
Cow, at my majestic drives, I will make you question everything, son. So
Gotta do one more of this, and I gotta go up and do some duties.
love, dad. 80% smaller, just as effective. Osteoreflex rates. Need to move.
Most American homeowners would be shocked if they knew just how rich
Samuel
the average American home value has increased to $40,000
WR.
over the last 5 years. But many don't know you can access that money without refinancing or selling your home. With a home equity
Matthew, the
loan,
name on the
you can
silver
hold
magnifying
cash
glass is that
for
of one
anything you
Samuel
need.
WR.
Home improvement, college tuition,
Oh, you've already
even
met a
trying to
gentleman
get
with these
your friends
initials.
back.
A sleuthing enthusiast who was embroiled in a murder at Lady Highmore's picnic? You're right, Matthew. We ought to question this fellow and find out how his magnifying glass peregrinated to Miss Rochester's vault.
But Bill, you're a drifter. How can I just pull up stakes and run off with you?
Please reconsider, Josie. You're the prettiest girl in the county.
Senior Trooper Matthew, delighted to see you again. I have fond memories of us solving that murder together at Lady Highmore's picnic. I believe you are a suspect in that case, not our confrere, Mr. Waldorf Ridgewood. But that's not what brings us here today. We found a personal item of yours in Clarissa Rochester's bank vault, which was ransacked shortly after she was murdered. Miss Clarissa murdered? But I just attended a luncheon at her residence. She seemed fine to me. As for the magnifying glass, I must have dropped it in the vault when Miss Clarissa took me around. She trusted me. I'm a long-standing friend of the family. I see. Have you an inkling as to who could have wished her harm, or tried to pilfer her belongings? Not yet, Senior Trooper Matthew, but I see it as my duty to offer all my expertise to you in this investigation. That's what Clarissa would have wished. Besides, I'm newly familiar with the fascinating science of forensic botany. Don't be afraid to call on me if you find anything that befuddles you. You may well hear from us again, Mr. Waldorf Ridgewood, but it won't be because we need your help. And that'll be 3. And I'll see you guys when the victims' letters are done. Okay, folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of the victims' letters. Mr. Bontemps, do you notice anything different on me today? I don't know, Evie. You look particularly fresh. I'm wearing a necklace. Isn't it pretty? It was a gift from Catherine, just when I decided to give her one myself. I'm pleased that your romance with Catherine is blossoming, Evie. Now, what can you tell us about the letters in Clarissa's vault box? Most of the correspondence is about account balances and interest calculations. But I found something that relates to Clarissa's personal affairs. A copy of her dismissal letter to Francine, her maid. Miss Rochester wanted to dismiss Francine? Do tell us more, Evie. The letter doesn't say why, just that Clarissa was to send off Francine with a month's wages and a reference after the luncheon today. My word. Francine seemed to profess genuine care for her mistress, but if Miss Rochester wanted her gone, she may have been resentful, desperate even. Too right, Matthew. We ought to have a word with the maid. Getting some more energy. And let's talk to Francine, see what she has to say now. Francine, you neglected to tell us that today was your last day in Miss Rochester's service. You have to forgive me, Senior Trooper Matthew. First the luncheon, then this awful misadventure with Milady. I hardly know where my head's at. I'm mortified I didn't even offer you nibbles and refreshments. The golden caviar is my personal favorite. There are still some left. Enough pleasantries. Why did Miss Rochester dismiss you? Milady had impossibly high standards, Senior Trooper Matthew. Years of faithful service didn't matter if you made a simple mistake. I even went to night school to learn about herbs and potions so I could brew the perfect tea for my mistress, but I served it in the wrong cup and she wanted me gone. But life is full of surprises, Senior Trooper Matthew. To think I was to be dismissed today, and now it's Miss Clarissa who's departed, in a fine oak wood coffin. Well, Francine, let's hope it wasn't you who visited revenge upon your mistress. And on that note, Senior Trooper Matthew and I wish to examine the crime scene once again. I still got to get a couple more energy, or a couple more OJs rather. And there's still one more star I have to get, but I will make sure that I will see to that. But I will see to it that I do get it. Aha! Got the first star, but I'm going to have enough stars no matter what to take care of everything. All I need is really 6 tops. Matthew, it seems like the party guests have broken something valuable here. Let us piece it back together. It might be a new lead. You also wish to inspect the discarded leftovers? Wise move. A lot could be gleaned from what's thrown away at a party. Let us dig in. There we go. Matthew, the decorative plate bears an inscription to the deputy mayor. The deputy mayor? We never dealt with her before until she got caught up in Officer Owen's murder. You're right. It seems she may have been at the victim's luncheon, and who but a Rochester would give her such a lavish present? You're right, Matthew. We ought to have a word with the deputy mayor about her connection to the victim. Let's see what Mayor Huang has to say. Senior Trooper Matthew, I have a meeting with Mayor Castletown in a minute, so I'll make this quick. What is it you require? We believe you're acquainted with Clarissa Rochester, ma'am. Was she the one who gave you this present? Why, yes. Thank you for putting it back together. I was so touched when Miss Rochester offered that pretty thing to me, I clumsily dropped it. Luckily, she wasn't often... Excuse me, Senior Trooper Matthew, I have a bad case of hay fever. Anyway, why are you bringing this up? As it happens, Clarissa Rochester was murdered. Did you attend the luncheon today at her residence? Yes, I was there, but murdered, you say? This doesn't bode well for the bank and the Wolf Street Stock Exchange. Clarissa Rochester played a huge part in the city's financial life. I must alert the mayor about this calamity at once. Thank you for informing me, Senior Trooper Matthew, and good day. Okay. Crushed plant. Matthew, you pulled some crushed greens out of the trash can? I know vegetables are healthy, but... Blast it, you're right. These are no vegetables. This could be the poisonous plant Richard was talking about, the extract of which killed Clarissa Rochester. I agree. We must have the specimen analyzed at once. Oh, thank God we're not putting that thing together. 12 hours? I'll see you guys when this is done. Okay, folks, we've come back. And let's speed up the crush plant now. Because I want to.
Thank you, Pete.
Viola, we're eager to hear your verdict on this plant Matthew found in the trash. As you suspected, Matthew, this is indeed a specimen of Weeping Nellie, the poisonous plant that killed the victim. The poison's been extracted from it already.
The 80s senior softball team as they were fine-tuning their skills.
Observe, if you please, the damage to the leaves. They've been crushed and soaked overnight in a special solution. A delicate operation I learned from my dear father. That is, when I still thought he was my father. Oh, I'm that. Well, anyway, this is the very plant. Then this is the very plant the killer used to murder Clarissa Rochester. Did the evildoer leave any traces? Like I said, handling this plant requires expertise. And the killer did make one mistake. They contaminated the organic tissue with a synthetic substance that I identified as hair pomade. So our killer wears hair pomade. No doubt they wanted to look their best for Clarissa Rochester's luncheon, and now they can still look smart in court when they're tried for murder.
No matter how many guys show up, everybody bats, everybody goes in the fields. So we just have a good time.
Matthew, someone murdered Clarissa Rochester at a luncheon by slipping poison in her champagne. And someone also ransacked the victim's bank vault. We suspect the intruder trying to get rid of something incriminating, but so far, we don't know what. One person who has something to hide was Larry Rochester. The victim's vault contains evidence that she threatened to curtail his decadent lifestyle. Another lead pointed to Deputy Mayor Huang, who was also among the party guests, as was an old acquaintance, Samuel Waldorf Ridgewood, who... Matthew, Miss Rochester's maid is on the telephone. She's hysterical. She says Larry Rochester is back in the house and that you have to arrest him. We do. I'll see you guys for Chapter 3 then.
Some players do have to take a powder for medical
Alright folks, we've come back. Let's start Chapter 3 of Death Comes to Lunch.
Chapman sitting out after hip replacement surgery.
I haven't been out in the field yet, but I'm hoping to be able to go to Vegas in September and play with the team, because I'm eligible to play now. My first year of eligibility.
Francine sounds most distraught. You're right, Matthew. We better go see what this is about. Evie, tell Francine we're on our way. Thank heavens you're here, Senior Trooper Matthew. I've been assaulted by that despicable Larry Rochester. Assaulted? What happened exactly, Francine? Mr. Rochester came back to the house under the pretext of fetching some hair pomade he forgot. I served him some tea, and as I turned around, he pinched my bottom. Senior Trooper Matthew, that's not the full story. I pinched Francine's bottom, alright, but I meant it affectionately. And then she slapped me on the face, and it hurt. It definitely wasn't affectionate. You deserved it, you womanizing dandiprat! And don't think you'll be getting that hair pomade back either. I'll be keeping it for myself, you... Francine, I understand your indignation at this most ungentlemanly conduct. But Mr. Rochester shan't bother you again if he knows what's good for him. And now, in the absence of any other irregularities to report, we better get back to solving Miss Rochester's murder, Matthew. You reckon another visit to the bank vault will provide fresh leads? Sounds like a plan. Lead the way, Matthew.
Yet we are always there. The Hawaii Red Cross needs your donation.
When I met Ace, he lived in Hula.
It was very
Oh, that's a nice picture.
Special needs. He does need a lot of space to be able to...
You do that to a woman? You better be ready for that.
I never thought actually on a whole he would provide that type of space for Cole. It's one of the greatest feelings.
It's so great.
Pinch a lady's butt. Be prepared for a slap.
To get my dream home, it was all possible because of the
Okay, let's see. Oh, I see a clue. Torn leaflet. Ha! I got the first star.
It's Mattress Firm's coolest $72 sale this Friday through Sunday. And while supplies last, get a free Yeti.
Matthew, if money was the motive for Clarissa Rochester's murder, then searching her vault is bound to pay dividends. What have you found? That perfume looks like a gift. There's a note attached. With apologies. A lavish gesture of penance. But the sender neglected to sign it. Was the gift intended for Clarissa, or was she the one apologizing? Either way, this clue speaks of a conflict. We need to know more. Sharp observation, Matthew. The note has a faint blue stain on it. Collecting a sample may reveal what we're missing. That locked box bears the insignia of the Bank of Concordia. Let's see what we find inside when you open it. And you're right, we'd better reassemble that torn leaflet as well. Matthew, the answer to this mystery must be right in front of us. Let us apply ourselves and find them.
So I said a prayer on honestly, I told myself, God, I'm not gonna die here.
Roger Rodriguez's prayers were answered, but there were some tense moments as he hung upside down on the bungee jump ride at the Ventura County Fair.
Hold myself up, take a break, hold myself up, take a break, and just try to keep my head up.
This is how
Okay, folks. I had to pause a little bit. So I had to hear a story on the news.
I'm glad you reminded me. I wouldn't want to miss the chance to vote next month. Man has to put down roots. Folks, much persuaded me to run again. Civic duty you carry well, Mr. Mayor.
Matthew, this is a leaflet for an adoption agency advertising orphans with good teeth. Are they dealing with children or horses? Either way, you're right. There is a message on the paper. Clarissa, over my dead body. My word, does this mean Clarissa Rochester wanted to adopt an orphan? None of her family mentioned this before. And yet someone found her decision deeply objectionable. I concur, Matthew. Clarissa's father, Horatio, might know more about this. Let us question the fellow.
Just looking after my interests, you understand, huh?
Let's see what he has to say. Senior Trooper Matthew, tell me you've solved my daughter's murder. My patience is wearing thin. We're close, Mr. Rochester, very close. But there remains a matter we're hoping you could elucidate. Our inquiries revealed that your daughter wished to adopt an orphan. Bah! I hope that embarrassing folly of my daughter would go to the grave with her, Senior Trooper Matthew. You mean it was you who opposed Clarissa's plans? But why? Because I didn't intend to leave the Rochester fortune to a street urchin, that's why. That Clarissa never married and bore a grandchild. I could forgive. That a barren woman can still prove her worth in business. But let her bring a ragamuffin to eat my golden caviar at my table? Never! Mr. Rochester, if avarice led you to murder your daughter, you'll soon learn the futility of wealth in prison.
I didn't buy it. Amos gave it to me for last week.
You know, it's hard to believe that a whole month has passed since Amos retired and went back to Kentucky.
Yeah. Down there with all those relatives of his. Well, I tell you, it's not quite my idea of retirement.
I really miss him.
Never thought I'd say I missed old Amos. But about this new fellow, what's his name?
Mort Metzger.
Yeah, he's a city fella. What's he doing up
Okay.
here in these parts, huh?
Well, as I understand it, he took over retired. I think he's from New York. You know, paying what we do.
AX3. Oh no.
DN6.
B7. Ah, I missed the 9, but that's alright.
Shouldn't wonder. I never heard a woman talk so much.
Matthew, I've never laid eyes on a contraband like this before. You say you've encountered a machine just like this during the Slaughterhouse murder? When an Italian gangster planted it to record the victim's conversations? So it's a sound recording contraption. Very well then, let's ship it to Charlie and see if he can charm any evidence out of it.
One of the three sisters? Seth, aren't you letting your imagination run away with you? I mean, Lillian and Helen wrote the book on spinster.
9 hours?
You'd be surprised, the gossip about his.
No, I wouldn't, and I wouldn't believe it all either. Just because Mr. Penroy rents their spare room.
I wonder which one he has his eye on, Helen.
Are we going to put this under a microscope, or will this be analyzed too? Here we are. Blue substance. Matthew, you've obtained a speck of that substance from the note on the perfume. If you think the microscope might solve the mystery of this apology, let's place the sample under it post-haste.
Stick to the schedule. Listen, my greedy friend.
And we will put it under the microscope. Okay. Got it. On a 9. Nasal spray. Matthew, the substance on the apology note attached to the perfume was nasal spray. Apparently, the spray is intended for sufferers of hay fever. Dash it, you're right. Deputy Mayor Huang was sneezing when we last talked to her. She must be the one with hay fever. So either Mrs. Huang gave Clarissa this perfume as an apology, or she received it from her. Either way, Mrs. Huang didn't mention any conflict with the victim. Let's see what this is all about, Matthew. Mrs. Huang, we found this apology gift among Miss Rochester's possessions and... Ah, yes, I fear you will misinterpret it, but I assure you when I sent that gift, I was apologizing for a mere trifle. Clarissa was counting on me to convince the city council to endorse her new book, Make a Killing in Shillings, for the university curriculum. Clarissa was a progressive financier, full of ideas to reform our banking system. Unfortunately, the councilors did not see it that way and blocked my proposal. Clarissa took it rather badly, but I'm sure she'd have forgiven me. She wouldn't have sabotaged my political career over this. Sounds like a serious predicament for an ambitious woman like yourself, Mrs. Huang. I do hope you do not take desperate measures to protect your position. I don't know what you're implying, Senior Trooper Matthew. Anyway, I'm late for a meeting and my hair is a disaster. I must slather some pomade on it quickly on my way. Good day, officers. For now, she's clear. I'll see you guys when the recording device is done. Alright, folks, we've come back. Let's get the results of the recording device. Matthew, this new voice recorder you sent me is the latest technology. It was clearly a security device installed in Miss Rochester's vault by the bank, and apparently they only wanted the best. Last time I saw one of these machines, I could only hear a few garbled words on the recording, but this wax cylinder here is so sensitive I could distinguish individual voices. And the needle... Stop gushing about technicalities, Charlie, and just tell us what you heard. Who were the voices and what did they say? It was Clarissa Rochester having a heated disagreement with a man called Samuel. Clarissa said this man kept breaking into her bank vault. She threatened to take him to court for being a blackguard and a snoot. Samuel Waldorf Ridgewood has been sneaking into Clarissa's vault? Thunderation! Then it must have been him who ransacked her vault after the murder, too. I agree, Matthew. Samuel has a lot to explain. Mr. Waldorf Ridgewood, you've been unmasked. You've been regularly breaking into Clarissa's vault, and she threatened to take you to court for it. I have no notion of what you mean, Senior Trooper Matthew. Balderdash, it is futile to deny it. We have the bank security recordings. You have the recordings? Dash it, you got me good, Senior Trooper Matthew, but it's not what you think. Clarissa and I were friends. She showed me the vault herself. I can't help it if secrets tickle my detective instincts. So I memorized the code she used and sneaked back in there afterwards by myself. There were just too many fascinating things in that vault about the entire Rochester family. Did you know, for instance, that Horatio smooths his hair with pomade? He's ashamed of buying it from the apothecary, so he mixes it himself, for he's an amateur botanist, and... That is beside the point. You violated Clarissa's privacy, and she was incensed enough to threaten you with a lawsuit. Admit it. Did you kill her to silence her? No, I didn't, Senior Trooper Matthew. I went to the luncheon with the express purpose of mending bridges between us. But after she died, I was worried our argument might be misconstrued. So I went back to the vault one last time, trying to retrieve that wretched device, only I couldn't find it. Well, Senior Trooper Matthew found it, and it's enough to put you behind bars for unlawful entry, with plenty of room for murder on your charge sheet. Matthew, tell me you solved Clarissa Rochester's murder, or I won't be able to show my face at the Town Hall soiree tonight. We're doing our utmost, Chief, but there are so many threads to untangle in Clarissa's life. Well, tell me what you have, and I'll see if I can advise. I don't mean to brag, but I'm naturally at ease with the financial and social elite. Alright then, we have Horatio Rochester, the victim's father, who was vehemently against Clarissa adopting an orphan. Deputy Mayor Huang worried that a falling out with Miss Rochester may end her career, and Samuel Randolph Ridgewood was threatened with a lawsuit for spying on the victim's family. No, Matthew, I can't bear to hear more. The Rochesters, the deputy mayor, this is a social disaster. I'd better go. Do what you must. Just be discreet. Why, thanks for the great advice, Chief. Matthew, where do you suggest we go from here? Back to the rooftop terrace at the victim's residence? Capital idea. Let us proceed. Moment, folks. Okay.
Barla's 41, but she's had 3 kids.
All taken away by the state. Pseudocyesis can also occur when a woman has miscarried or lost a child.
And let's investigate the rooftop buffet.
That one's still a medical mystery.
Well, here's another one. Why would a mother throw her own baby in the trash? Where are we on the canvas?
Baby was dumped here. We've done these 4 blocks.
Mother couldn't travel very far after giving birth.
Assuming she's the one that dumped the baby. Could be the husband, boyfriend, parent.
Drunken genius. The crime lab cleaned the t-shirt that the center was wrapped in. Blood obscured a logo. Einstein's drunken genius.
What does that mean?
I did a narcotics bust at Einstein once. It's a college hanging out right outside the Manhattan Institute of Technology.
That's 6 blocks from
Okay.
the crime scene.
Let's do this.
Teachers threw a promo we ran back in October. Trivia.
Geared toward the eggheads, man, I'd say.
Yeah, but the gimmick was you had to take a short IQ test after downing 4 shots of tequila.
The winner's a drunken genius.
October. Mother would have been 6 months pregnant.
Remember pregnant winner?
You had what I assume were beer bellies.
How many of those t-shirts have you given away?
What a day for a month.
Any chance you got a list of the winners?
They're automatically enrolled in Einstein's
There we go.
Club. I got all the databases.
Think about how many rooms I had to carry in that moronic shirt.
You still have it?
My ex-roommate borrowed it. Never gave it back.
What's her name?
Ella Christensen. She moved into a single down the hall.
Well, I'm pretty sure I gave that shirt back to Heather.
Matthew, there are remnants of a crushed plan in this mortar. My word, you're right. These instruments might be what the killer used to crush Weeping Nellie to extract its poison. Sharp thinking, Matthew. Let's collect a sample from the mortar. And despite my misgivings about bowling, I have no objections to searching through those pins and balls in that bag. Matthew, these clues are all we have to score the winning point against the killer. Make them count.
And my majestic drives.
Alright.
Make you question everything, son. So don't worry about Dad's joints. Worry about your dignity. Love, Dad.
Just a moment, everyone, while I upgrade a level. Okay. Mortar and pestle now.
You chose to give birth.
You have.
You chose to walk 6 blocks.
8 energy. Matthew, we have a sample of those crushed leaves from the mortar. Let us dispatch it to Viola post-haste.
All those choices.
That's 9 hours. I won't be going anywhere tomorrow, so I can just let this go. Champagne flute. Matthew, that champagne flute you found in the bowling bag may be the lead we've been seeking. We know the poison was mixed in with Clarissa's champagne, and the lipstick stain on the glass is the same color as Clarissa's. Quick, let's send the champagne flute to Viola and see what she can tell us about the killer.
It's my weekend, the day's half gone. I'm still here.
Look, Captain. DNA's gonna close the case on this one.
Go on. Be with your kids.
15 hours. See you guys when this is done. Alright folks, we've come back. Now let's get the results of the leaf fragments. And put a killer behind bars. Tell us, Viola, why did you glean from those... What did you glean from those crushed leaves Matthew collected from the mortar? First, I can confirm the leaves are definitely fragments of Weeping Nelly, the poisonous plant that killed the victim. So it was the killer who left that mortar on the rooftop. Finally, they might be within our grasp, Matthew. Wait until I tell you what I found when I examined the leaves under the microscope. A single fiber of brown hair. It must have fallen in the mortar from the killer's head while they crushed the plant. Well, this brown-haired killer may have crushed poison in that mortar, but now it's Matthew who will crush their hopes of getting away with murder. Matthew, I'm relieved it's Isaac working with you today and not Maddie. You mean that knowing Madeline's weakness for liquor, she would have been tempted to gulp down what little was left in the champagne flute? Yes, and that would have caused her terrible stomach cramps, even at this minuscule quality. Are you saying there was poison in the glass? So Matthew was right. This was the victim's champagne flute. But we know the killer made mistakes before. Surely they left some telltale sign on the glass. I succeeded in isolating a speck of sweat from the surface, which I analyzed under the DNA machine. It did not match the victim's unique sequence of attributes. It must be therefore the killer's. And the sweat contained a specific biological code for blue eyes. I thus conclude that you're looking for a blue-eyed killer, Matthew. Our killer's blue eyes shall be filled with tears when you arrest them, Matthew. Late Elvis Presley's got nothing on this. Matthew, we have all the evidence to arrest Clarissa Rochester's killer. They killed a bank director. It's time to settle their debt. It's time they settled their debt. Okay, let's see here. Ooh. It's the housemaid. No surprise. Francine, you're under arrest for the murder of your mistress, Clarissa Rochester. Me, a murderer? What a fanciful idea, Senior Trooper Matthew. Not in the slightest. The evidence supports it. We found the plant you used to poison Miss Rochester. You threw it away with the leftovers. Just because I cleaned up the mess doesn't mean I killed Milady. Well, you didn't clean the mortar and pestle well enough. Some crushed leaves and a hair from your head were still in it. You're after me because you know Miss Clarissa wanted to sack me, but an accomplished maid like myself doesn't need to kill for a job. How do you explain this note then? You wrote it to Miss Clarissa with your fingers stained with golden caviar. You wanted her to change her mind about her decision. No, I wanted her to change her mind about ending our affair. I wanted to stop Clarissa from throwing our romance away. Alright, Senior Trooper Matthew. I put my hands up to it. I killed Clarissa because I'd rather see her dead than living happily without me. You mean you and Miss Rochester had a relationship of a romantic nature? We kept it hidden, for her family would never have approved, but our love only grew stronger in the darkness of secrecy. That is, until Clarissa started yearning for a child. She realized she needed an impeccable reputation to even think of adopting, being an unmarried woman and all. She grew so afraid of a scandal that she decided never to see me again. She refused to even keep me in service as her maid. I pleaded with her to think of us, but she was ready to sacrifice me so that she could become a mother. I couldn't bear it, so I poisoned her at the luncheon, hoping that one of the guests would take the blame for the attempt. A vain hope, with Senior Trooper Matthew on the case. Francine, you're under arrest for murder. Miss Francine, you stand trial for the murder of your employer, Clarissa Rochester. How do you plead? Guilty, Your Honor. It was a crime of passion. We were lovers and Clarissa left me. She wanted to protect herself from the scandal of loving another woman, but true love should never be a stain on one's reputation. That is the real crime here, Your Honor. One day, people may get to freely love whoever they wish, Miss Francine. Unfortunately, we're not living in such blessed times yet. But the day when murder goes unpunished will never dawn on Concordia. Not on my watch, it won't. You took Miss Rochester's life in a calculated manner, hoping an innocent person would take the blame in your stead. This court sentences you to 20 years in jail. I didn't want Clarissa to live without me, and now my life is destroyed as well. Matthew, I always knew you'd solve this case brilliantly. Congratulations. You brought Clarissa Rochester's murderer to justice. You'll be pleased to know the Rochesters have congratulated me personally. A charming lady gave me the warmest smile. With due respect, Chief, I fear the Bank of Concordia will need more than a smile to get back on its feet now that the director is dead. And we still need to ascertain what linked the Rochesters to the late mobster Vittorio Capecchi. Matthew, I have a sense of foreboding that our calamities with the Rochesters are only just beginning. Take a look at the other ones. No brown hair on Horatio Rochester. Brown eyes for Larry Rochester. Samuel Waldorf Ridgewood, he was cleared pretty early. And Sandra Huang was cleared from the beginning. I'll see you guys. It was Francine, the housemaid. I'll see you guys for a run for your money, 1-6. We are back now, and we're now going to do a run for your money, 1-6. Matthew, it turned out that Clarissa Rochester was murdered by her housemate for sentimental reasons, seemingly unconnected to her family's interests and activities. But we do know that some of those activities involve fraternizing with criminals. Even though the mob is now defunct, we must... Matthew, sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Waldorf Ridgewood's still in custody for breaking into the victim's vault. He says he has information he's willing to trade for lesser charges. Well, Samuel did spy on the Rochesters after all, and even a blundering fool like him may have stumbled upon something. Perhaps you ought to hear him out. Matthew, before you go, will you please come and talk to Maddie with me? She's still recovering from last night's bender. But circumstances forced me to urgently communicate some news to her. Your presence would be of great help. We have a pressing matter to attend to, Charlie, but if Matthew can spare a few minutes, then go talk to Madeline before we see Samuel in his cell. Oh boy. Matthew, I'm never drinking again. I have the worst headache imaginable. Can't you come back later? Maddie, I'm sorry you're poorly, but I need your help. My landlady kicked me out of my lodgings. She said my experiments were ruining the property. She took my keys, even though it was just a small hole in the wall. Charlie, I feel like there's a hole in my head, too. If only you could somehow find me some Ginger Storm. That's my only hope of ever feeling better again. Ginger Storm? Maddie, I really don't think you should be drinking any... Ginger Storm is a fizzy refreshment, a new invention that restores your energy and it cures hangovers. Unfortunately, it's so expensive only a Rochester could afford it. Matthew, didn't you just investigate a party at a Rochester's house? Let's go and see if they have some of this miracle drink left over. we go. Matthew, you reckon we'll find a leftover bottle of Ginger Storm in this mess? Alright, I'd look anywhere to find it for Maddie. There it is, and there's still a little left. Excellent hunch, Matthew. You found a bottle of Ginger Storm among the dirty dishes. But there's almost nothing left in the bottle. That isn't going to help Maddie's hangover. Excellent idea, Matthew. Maybe Viola can ascertain what this concoction is and make some more. This is 6 hours long. But before I see what Samuel has to say, I'm going to switch to the cat. So I didn't get any messages yesterday. Overnight, I thought I'd get a bunch, but nothing. Unless nobody can send any. Mr. Waldorf Ridgewood, we understand you have information to trade for lesser charges. What is it regarding? Senior Trooper Matthew, I have irrefutable proof that the Rochesters are conspiring against the common good. You see, I possess a very expensive and sophisticated photographic machine. Unfortunately, I misplaced it on the rooftop of the Rochester residence. That's strange. I got a notice from them, but my messages box came up empty. But if you can retrieve the photographs I took, you will see I speak the truth. The Rochesters are involved in criminal wrongdoings. A camera on the rooftop, you say? Senior Trooper Matthew will investigate at once. It better be worth our while, or you can forget about leniency. Aha. Need the tie. Boom. There we are. As you can see, my first place is etched in stone unless someone goes in elite mode, which I'm sure somebody will. Matthew, that camera may be the one Samuel used to take pictures of the Rochesters. We must unlock it to access the film roll. Sam locked. That's a funny password. Matthew succeeded in opening the compartment. Now I can take the film roll out and send it to Diego. Our Spanish trickster's a dab hand with paintings. He must know how... Oh God, if this thing will hurry up. Hold on. He must know how to develop photographs too. It's 9 hours? Yes, it is. And I'll let both of these run their courses. For now, this is Matthew. See you again. Okay, folks, we have returned. And let's get the results of the film roll first from Diego. Matthew, photography is an inferior art form, but it has its place in the sleuth's arsenal. Samuel promised us proof of the Rochester's criminal wrongdoings. Do any of these images bear out his words? Well, there was one photograph on this roll that might interest you. It proves that Horatio Rochester is guilty of low culinary standards. Look at this picture of him in Luigi's Deli, a millionaire eating pasta. Tarnation! Never mind the pasta. I'll be dashed if that isn't the late Vittorio Capesci dining with Horatio. Matthew, we already knew one of the Rochesters was involved in Vittorio Capesci's railway fraud scheme, and now we know which one. Definitely, I performed some enhancements on the picture, and the paper these two are studying is a railway map. Matthew, it is evident that Horatio and Vittorio were conspiring together. We must confront Horatio with this evidence at once. Mr. Rochester, would you kindly explain the nature of your association with the late mobster Vittorio Capesci? That Capesci fellow? He has some land to sell in Coyote Gorge, which I acquired, in support of the railway, perfectly above board with the city council's approval. Capesci was a gangster. He got that land through bullying and murder. Terribly unfortunate, yes, but of course I didn't know anything about that. In fact, I paid a generous compensation to the farmers after the fraud came to light, and the railway's path was diverted through an undisputed territory. I think you'll find there's nothing you can reproach me or my family with, Senior Trooper Matthew. And next time you take the train, the fare's on me. Tarnation! I can't believe Horatio came out of this smelling like roses. He's evidently guilty as sin. You're right, Matthew. He mentioned that the city council approved the railway construction plans, which means Horatio must have misled them about the Italian gang's involvement. We must take this to Deputy Mayor Huang at once. Mrs. Huang, we've come to you about a disturbing matter concerning a link between Horatio Rochester and the defunct mobster Vittorio Capesci. It seems they conspired in a fraud over the construction of the Concordian Railway. Fraud? Conspiracy? Such terrible conjectures. Senior Trooper Matthew, today's not a good day to distract me. The bank's just lost its director and... Mrs. Huang, we have proof. Look at this photograph of Horatio Rochester, clearly in cahoots with Capesci. I see two people having dinner. There's nothing unlawful about it. Mrs. Huang, are you prepared to close your eyes to such an obvious machination? I'm taking your concerns very seriously, Senior Trooper Matthew, but until you have better proof of law breaking, there's nothing I can do, except give you this as a token of my esteem. And the Ginger Storm. Viola, have you managed to establish the composition of this alleged hangover cure? It was a breeze. Most of the drink is sugar and carbonated water, but give it a silly name and put it in a fancy bottle, and people will spend their hard-earned shillings on it. I have, however, done something better. I created a truly refreshing beverage full of electrolytes, vitamins, and protein. It restores energy and boosts the immune system. Well, I hope your concoction will help Maddie, because I really must talk to her. You see, I was expelled from my lodgings, and I'm hoping she'd let me sleep in her spare bedroom. Sounds like a conversation for which one needs all the vitamins one can get, but I'm sure my beverage will help. Alright, Matthew, let's give this drink to Maddie. And let's give it to Maddie. Maddie, we've got you the drink you wanted. We hope it'll help. You have? Please give it to me at once. Thank you for this fabulous refreshment, Matthew. I knew Ginger Storm would make me feel instantly better. Now, Charlie, what is it you wanted to say? Maddie, you see, my landlady's kicked me out, and I was hoping that maybe if you don't mind, perhaps I could move in with you. You mean you and I to live together? I'm not suggesting anything improper. It's just that you have that spare bedroom. Oh, it sounds like a nice idea, Charlie. We could spend a little more time together. I was hoping you'd agree. And look, I made you a gift, too. Except, wait a moment, where is it? Oh, no. I must have lost it in Clarissa's salon. Don't worry, Charlie. Just let me fix my hair and then we can have a bite to eat. And then we'll go back to the Rochester flat and find your gift. Hey. And the party table now. Oh. Bra, tie, glove, scissors, and book. Charlie, would this broken thing be the gift you made me? It wasn't broken before. Matthew, do you think you can piece it back together? Of course. Okay. Matthew, my invention looks as good as new. Maddie, do you like it? It's adorable, Charlie. Is it a key rack? Yes, it's made of this new material called Rockolite. It's entirely synthetic and wonderfully malleable. I thought it'd be a nice symbol of us becoming roommates. Speaking of roommates, we must make one thing clear, Charlie. There are to be no explosions on the balcony, and don't you dream of leaving your bicycle in my parking spot. It's for the Madmobile. I solemnly promise, Maddie, and I'm really looking forward to living with you. Me too, Charlie. Ooh. Senior Trooper Matthew, I've heard about your discoveries involving Horatio Rochester and Vittorio Capesci. It beggars belief that an eminent citizen of Concordia should conspire with criminals, and that our railway should be stained with blood before it's even built. Believe me, Your Honor, we share your indignation. We even brought the matter to Deputy Mayor Huang, but she dismissed it. I refuse to believe that the law is powerless to punish a wicked man who hides behind the mask of respectability. If Horatio's done this, who knows what other insidious plans the Rochesters must be hatching. This family is of such high standing that their corruption could spell doom for all of Concordia. Senior Trooper Matthew, I'm counting on you to uncover their schemes once and for all. Matthew, forgive me for interrupting, but have you seen the Evening Gazette? Clarissa Rochester's death pushed the Bank of Concordia to the brink of a crisis. The Wolf Street stock market has collapsed. Uh-oh. It's August 10th? Yes. Okay. Four. Four new ones again. Only two new ones. Four new ones. Okay. Okay. 23. One of the chapters is complete. That's number 2. And I'll see you guys on August 10th when this case will be, when case number 37, or 38 rather, will be released. See y'all then.